Yes. It seems like you're advocating a policy of using American mercantilism to fight Chinese mercantilism, and there's always a danger because you're putting the power in the state to pick these industries, so we're counting on our government officials, and you consider our current leaders, and you're thinking they're going to be able to pick the industries that will work, or you're putting in experts. And you mentioned Kennedy and Reagan, but I'm old enough to remember when most leading economists would say the Soviet Union is going in 3, 4, 5 times as much as the United States, because we would say they're investing 25% of their economy into investment. And most of their economy was being invested into machines, to build machines, to dig up resources, to consume resources, to build more machines, to consume resources, to build more machines, so they look good, in other words, waste. And so there's a difficulty I see with that.
Yeah, there's one slide I've been saving. Let me find it, 1 second. Yeah. Don't ask me how much it's going to cost to rebuild manufacturing. I don't know. There are all kinds of production functions that economists come up with to try to estimate those things. They're all bunkum. This is one of the most cost-effective, game-changing, transformational, disruptive innovations of all time. The domestication of the cat, because as our ancestors, no, seriously, 10,000 years ago, when our ancestors became dependent on stored grain, rodent control was a life or death matter. Rodents could destroy the majority of a crop, and domesticating a cat would reduce rodent damage substantially, probably give you a 30-40% increment in productivity. So the capital input was a saucer of milk, and the labor input was, here, kitty, kitty. It's innovation and enterprise and ingenuity which do this. It's not the amount of stuff that you dump onto stuff. It's absolutely true. The Russians had massive capital investment figures and massive output figures, and the credulous analysts of the CIA, when Reagan came in, were saying, oh, the Russian economy is doing wonderfully. Paul Samuelson, the great liberal Keynesian, thought the Russian economy was doing wonderfully. And Bill Casey, the Reagan CIA director, and my friend, the late Herb Meyer, ran a B-team exercise and said, no, it's just a big pile of junk. The Chinese economy is not the Russian economy. There are a lot of such things in the Chinese economy, but there's also a lot of stuff like their EV companies, who are light years ahead of us. So I would not assume the Chinese are quite as backward as the Russians. We have no idea what's going to come out. That's the point about being Americans. We're willing to take the risk about the unknown unknowns. Two important facts about the Reagan era. One is every single major product that came out of that period, everything to do with the digital age, optical networks, plasma screen displays, the internet, CMOS chip processing, you name it, everything started with a Defense Department subsidy. The other important fact is none of the products that were finally developed out of that R&D had anything to do with the original intent of the subsidy. They all started with one thing, and some smart, eccentric engineer found something totally different. The reason we got CMOS chips to power look-down radar in the cockpits of F-15s is because some idiot at the Pentagon wanted to have fighter pilots do weather forecasting in the cockpit. So they were developing a fast chip for weather forecasting, and then somebody, I forget it, I think it was RCA Labs, figured out, gee, with this we can do the imaging that'll give us look-down radar, which was the beginning of America's transformational leap forward in avionics. So we don't know what kind of capital input, what kind of labor input are going to do it. We need to start the process and trust in the inventiveness of American science and the enterprise and the risk friendliness of American entrepreneurs to turn this stuff into things that we couldn't possibly imagine now. I guarantee you when we set out to win the Cold War by making the digital age, we had no idea what products we would have. We had no idea this would lead to the PC or the internet or any of these things. That's what capitalism and freedom are about. They're about supporting human creativity, the freedom to do things no one ever thought of before, the freedom to take risks. This gives people a foundation to do it, but I'm not talking about government subsidies where you have a committee of bureaucrats who say, well, we need so many chips and so many bars of steel and so many transistor radios or whatever they come up with. No, this is supporting cutting-edge science that gives entrepreneurs the chance to commercialize.